Hello everyone, welcome back to The Goody Life, where life is good and everything is great. And if you're new to my channel, I'm Dr. Goody, and The Goody Life is all about finding motivation, inspiration, and self-growth in all different aspects and areas of your life. So as we're moving on into relationship and we're working on relationship with yourself, as you know, The Goody Life cover 5 different aspects of personal growth and development, and we have moved into relationship overall. And last week we spoke about relationship with yourself and identifying your self-worth, your self-value, your self-love, and we talked about the importance of how to develop those. But while we were addressing that, we also looked at the way behind all of that, what's most important, and that is your self-esteem and your self-confidence. And that's what this week video is all about, is identifying and finding out how to build high self-esteem and high self-confidence. So let's get started. One of the things we identified already last week when we talked about self-worth, self-love, and self-value is that we go way back into your younger years when you were growing up and during that teenage phase, which I've always mentioned is a very vulnerable state, because that's when you're developing your identity, you're coming into who you want to become, you're forming your own person and what you want to grow up to be during that part of your life. You start identifying things you like about yourself and things you may not like so much about yourself also. And some of those liking and things that you don't like actually comes from your self-esteem and your self-confidence. So how does this all relate and come back to who you value yourself as? So I want us to look back during that time frame. So growing up, we talked about our micro and our macro. Your micro is your immediate family who you see every day and they talk to you on a daily basis. And then your macro is basically your school, your community, your neighborhood, your teachers, people that you interact with outside of your home. Now, both of these micros and macros count towards who you're building yourself to be. And a lot of times when we grow up, sometimes people give us a lot of feedback that's not necessarily true or applicable because they didn't know any better. So if you're someone who have identified, well, you struggle with low self-esteem and low self-confidence, chances are people weren't giving you the best feedback. Maybe some of these feedbacks are where you hear things like you're not good enough or you're not worthy, or some people take it even worse than that to where they call people names, that you're stupid or you're not smart. And they go into all kinds of way of criticizing someone. And especially when you're in that teenage phase, you start to take that as a personal comment towards yourself. And it can impact you in a very negative way as you grow up. It will actually sometimes cause most people to feel and develop low self-esteem for themselves. However, some people are able to turn that around and develop high self-esteem also at an earlier age. They are able to say, this is not who I am and this is just someone else's opinion of me. But if you weren't able to do that then, at least now you can start working on it. Or if you identify these were the things that have happened or that was said to you in the past. If you are someone who does have high self-esteem and high self-confidence, if you probably look back, you would notice people are giving you a lot of positive reinforcement, a lot of go-getters in your life, a good circle of people who was just giving you a lot of great feedback and constructive criticism, that even if you had something to work on, they gave you that feedback in such a way that you were able to apply it to yourself and make those positive changes or make that changes where it was needed for yourself. But for those of you who do struggle with your self-esteem or your self-confidence, which kind of lower that self-worth, that self-value, that self-love for yourself, you are the one who need to look at it and see how much of it was impacted when you were at a younger age. And now, as we come towards this video, and you know where it all started and how it all started, and from last week, you would hear these terms, which I said already: self-love, self-value, self-worth, self-esteem, self-confidence. They all have 5 things in common. They have the word self, meaning when you see this video or any other video, you are now accountable and responsible to make that change yourself. So if you're someone who do struggle with these things, now you're aware. Now you're aware, oh wow, this may have been impacted when I was younger. You are aware that you struggle in certain areas. So what do you do to make the change for yourself? So it's almost like starting from fresh all over again, recreating and giving yourself the talk, the speech, the feedback that you needed at a younger age. So let's look at some of the ways you can build up your self-esteem and self-confidence. A few ways to start working on your self-esteem and self-confidence. We've already identified that it's not necessarily your fault. That's the first thing you want to acknowledge. That it's not your fault that you struggle with it. It could have come from when you were growing up and certain things that was said to you. So now let's work on changing that. So what are these things that you say currently to yourself? When you try for something, do you give up easily? You need to identify that. Are you someone who don't even try at all because you don't feel that you're worthy of it? Or that you deserve these things in life, be it a good relationship, a good job, a healthy body? Do you feel that you don't deserve these things, and do you cope with them in an unhealthy pattern to where you're either in toxic relationship, or you avoid relationships at all, or you find yourself eating a lot of junk food, unhealthy meals for yourself, or you're self-sabotaging? Basically, people who have low self-esteem and low self-confidence, they tend to self-sabotage themselves. They make a lot of excuses also. Again, none of this is your fault, but now that you're aware, you have to make the switch and make the change for yourself. So how do you make those changes? Once you identify those patterns and those things that you may have done that actually adds to lowering your self-esteem, actually adds to your unhealthy behavior, what you do is you work on changing it for yourself, starting off with just a good feedback. We hear this all the time: positive feedback, positive affirmation. All that means, if you want to take that out of the, if you want to take that word out, all that means is being nice to yourself, being kind to yourself, being loving to yourself on a daily basis. It doesn't matter if you have to do it 10 times a day. It's a tiring job to remind yourself when you're making change to be nice to yourself. However, think about it, how much you are not being nice to yourself on a daily basis. If you spill coffee, do you get angry and your mood is ruined for the day? Or you go to work and you just don't like the way you look in your clothes, so you're just grumpy? That's an all-day job too, where you're feeding yourself unhealthy thoughts about yourself, where you're feeding yourself negative statements that may not be true about you whatsoever. So you're going to have to work on changing all those statements back. So it may have been many, many years that you brought yourself down. So expect to put in many, many months and possibly years to build yourself back up. So the easy step is identifying and giving yourself some positive feedback in the morning. Always finding something to be grateful for. There's always being alive is a reason to be grateful. Getting up, taking your time to enjoy the moment, the little things in life. Also, making sure when you get dressed or when before you leave the house, you give yourself a positive feedback, such as you're going to go out, you're going to have a great day, you're setting up your day to be the best for you. Avoid getting into pettiness. Don't get caught up if someone says something and you don't like it. Try to avoid engaging in that conversation to where it's going to make you more angry or make you feel more upset about yourself or about the scenario. Try to avoid those situations. Try to avoid those people. As you're avoiding those peoples and scenario, now you don't want to just be by yourself, which is, if you can, that's great where you're working on yourself. But try to engage and find people that you would like to be around, or that say things that's uplifting to you and that you say things that's uplifting to them. So that helps to elevate your mood a little bit. And when you're elevating your mood in a good way, chances are you're building your self-esteem and your self-confidence. And then when you're by yourself, you can work on building that self-love, self-worth, and self-value by taking care of yourself, by making little changes on how you give feedback to yourself. Remember, again, avoid being harsh, avoid being extra critical on yourself. The things you want to do is figure out how to be grateful every day for something, thankful, appreciative, and really, really work on the self-talk aspect of it. The self-talk is the things you say to you, such as how you see yourself, how you value yourself, how you love yourself. If you don't have a self-talk, try to develop one. Try to make one for yourself of, even if it's not who you are now, your self-talk can be for the future also. So start making a self-talk of where you would want to see yourself or what you would like to see yourself as, and read those every single morning or nighttime or a couple times a day. And slowly, slowly you will start to feel the changes within yourself. Next thing, avoid toxic situation. Try to engage in positive situation, light situation, happy conversations. Try to get yourself more engaged in those areas so you're able to keep yourself in a positive or a happy state of mind. So just as we're wrapping up, the end goal here is to avoid blame. When we're talking about building your self-esteem and your self-confidence, remember, know that it came from when you were younger and ways things may have happened during the time when you were growing up. And you can change it now for yourself through positive affirmation, positive self-talk, the people that you hang out with, taking things much lighter, a scenario or a situation, and avoid any blame. These are the ways to change your self-esteem and self-confidence. And remember, it will not happen in one day or 1 week or 1 month. It has to be consistent for days, weeks, months, and possibly years until you start to naturally feel that way about yourself. And before you know it, your self-esteem is going to be going up. Your self-confidence is going to be going up. You're also going to start acknowledging that you have a lot more self-worth for yourself, self-value for yourself, and finally that self-love, to where you genuinely feel happy about who you are as a person. And you're also spreading that with others. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button below. Also, drop a comment on what you would like to see me talk about next. Next week, we're going to move into talking about relationship with others. We talked about relationship with yourself. I addressed actually 5 areas in the past 2 videos. And now we're going to move into that. And then I have some fun other videos coming up in the next month. So stay tuned for that. Don't forget to drop me a comment what you would also like for me to talk about. And I'll see you all in the next video. Bye for now.